Hello, church. I am now contacting you from Galilee. We are at kibbutz Megan, which is just at the south tip of the Sea of Galilee. Um, my hair clippers didn't work. First thing you're going to notice is a little extra shine. My hair clippers are 50 hertz and everything here is 60 hertz. So I had to borrow some hair clippers and cut my hair. And Bert's clippers apparently only clip at like 2 microns or something. And so I really got a nice clean head shave this week. Anyway, a kibbutz is a community built around a business. In this case, they're built around the business of a hotel complex, and it's really a lot more like a vacation resort. It's beautiful. I meant to show you a picture. I was going to do this outside, but it got late, and my camera won't show how pretty things are outside at this time. I apologize. I'll have pictures for you. Obviously, we'll see later. But this is as nice as any place you've ever seen in Florida. Beautiful palm trees, fruit trees, wild fruit trees even, date palms. People are out on the lake parasailing, hanging out in this huge pool. It's really just spectacular location, very beautiful. Actually, since I last videoed you, we did spend a few more days in Jerusalem before we came here. And in that few days, we got to see some very interesting archaeological sites. In particular, we saw about 1000 BC section of the original city wall back from Solomon's time, and that was fascinating to see. They dug that up, and only part of it was visible. Also nearby, there were some first century homes in Jerusalem that had been excavated where you could actually see the way people lived, and you could see how it was in the upper city, which is the wealthier portion of the city, where these homes were excavated. And you could see how they had private cisterns, they had private baths. They were actually pretty efficient. I didn't see any big screen TVs, but other than that, they were living pretty well. We also got to see the Valley of Elah, where David slew Goliath, and we saw the Wadi Elah, where David most likely picked up his smooth stones with which he used to slay Goliath with his sling. We saw the mountain where Goliath would have stood and taunted David, considerable distance away, as it turns out. Dr. Fruchtenbaum said when he was in college that he and a friend, I think his friend did the experiment, stood on the mountain, put a tape recorder at the far end of the valley, and he shouted like Goliath would have. And because it was quiet then, there was no highway nearby, he actually heard everything quite well. So it's kind of eerie to think of this big, massive, quiet valley where Goliath taunted and David answered with a few rocks. We've now been in the Galilee area for several days and have seen a number of important sites. Of course, this is the area where Jesus did most of his ministry, most of his miracles, his sermons. We got to see where he healed the demoniac and where the pigs would have run into the sea. That same location was where he returned later and fed the 4,000, not the 5,000, but the 4,000, which would have been probably the people who the demoniac went back and testified to as to how he had been healed. There are a number of very lush valleys and plain areas that are near the sea. We saw the Bethesda plain. We saw the Jezreel Valley. These places are utterly filled with date palm groves, with fruit trees of all kinds. You always think about Israel as being this dirty little desert, and there are places where that's certainly the case. The wilderness and parts of the Shephelah that are really dry and bad. But when you get up here, you realize that there are many places that are very lush, very green, and very productive. And so in this area, we've certainly seen the very best. And it's like I told Carol on the phone, it's like Fantasy Island in a lot of these places. It's so nice and beautiful. And of course, having seen the Jezreel Valley, we also were there at the Megiddo Pass in the Megiddo Valley, near the mountain of Megiddo and the ancient city there. Megiddo, of course, rings very familiar to us because of our study of eschatology. We know that Megiddo is the Har Megiddo, or Armageddon in the Greek, is the mountains of Megiddo, and that's where Antichrist will gather the armies of the earth as he prepares to go wage war against Israel, targeting Jerusalem, of course. And so we got to stand and look out over that huge valley where those forces will gather, and that was quite an interesting, surreal moment as well. We had a day off today, and tomorrow we will begin touring again. We still have 4 full days of touring, and we will go to a major area each of those 4 days. From here, we still have Galilee, we have the Jezreel Valley, the coastal plain. We will see places still like Jezreel Philippi, Hazor, Dan, a lot of interesting places still to go, Mount Hermon. 45 places still in our 4 days left, so obviously we're hitting 10 or 11 places a day. Since the tour began up to today, there are 101 places on our list. I'm not certain we've hit every single one of them, but if we haven't, we've come dangerously close. So altogether, about 146 individual geographical stops that we've hit in this 3-week window. Our last day or so, we will be back in Jerusalem, and we'll have a day off there, I think, to prepare to come home, shop, or do whatever. And from there, we'll be back in Tel Aviv and flying home. And I'm fully expecting at this time next week to be sitting with you and listening to Rick preach and having a chance to visit with you. Look forward to seeing you. Once again, I'm very thankful for this trip. I hope that it's enriching for all of us as the information and the study that has been a part of it gets worked into our regular routine as we study the scriptures, hopefully with a little bit better geographical and cultural clarity. Looking forward to seeing you soon.